Hey all, welcome to the 10th video, I guess, of the DP series of CSCS. So this question is a little bit trickier than others that we have done right now. So those were a little bit trivial, some were simple. But this question is a medium level question, and so let's see the question statement. If you haven't read the or tried the question yet, please pause the video and try it yourself. Give it 15 to 20 minutes and then come back to it. So you have been given an array which has n integers between 1 to n, right? The values of the elements can be between 1 to n, and the difference between any two adjacent values is at most 1. So, for example, this array 1, comma 2, comma 3, comma 4. This array is a valid array according to this because it all the adjacent elements have their absolute difference as 1, right? You can have a 1 here, but then you have to have a 2 or a 0 here. But the integers must be between 1 and n. Okay, so we can't have a 0 here. We can have 1, 2, just because the difference is at most 1. So we can have a difference of 0 as well. So 1 1 1 is also a valid array, right? So what we have to find is that some values are hidden. So some values are basically unknown, and we have to count the number of arrays that can match the description. So the hidden values or the unknown values are represented by 0 because it is not in the range of 1 to n. So any value which is 0 can be replaced by any value between 1 and n, between 1 to n, right? So this is our range 1 to n, and we can replace that 0 with any value 1 to n as long as our array is valid. So we can have a 1 here, right? 1 1 1, or have a 2 here. There are no other values that verify any other condition because these would violate the rule of the successive numbers being of the adjacent numbers being successive. So, so the basic approach here. See, always in DT, you have to uh, basically break the problem into smaller parts so that you can achieve a top down or a bottom up approach, right? So we will only consider that approach here only. So let's consider an array with some values. Let's the lines are difficult to make for that. So suppose we are at some x position, alright, and we know that we can have 1 to m possibilities, right? These are the only possibilities we can have. So if we have 1 to m possibilities, then we can try out and then the brute force approach of solving this problem would be to generate all the possible permutations, all the possible arrays, and then checking if the array is valid or not, and then incrementing our count if it is valid. So this brute force approach, as if we consider the worst value complexity of this brute force approach, consider all zeros, right? So if everyone is zero, then everyone has m options, and if the size of array is n, then we would have n power n possibilities. So if you look at the constraints, n power n is gonna fail, that for sure, right? Because 10 power 10, not a 10 power actually 500, right? 10 power 500. So the computer allows just 10 power 7 or 8. It's actually 4 into 10 power 10. So 10 power 500 is of course a bad idea. So we won't be doing this brute force approach. That was obvious. But we know a solution here. We know a brute force solution. We would just we would just we would just make our way with this, right? So if we have some integer, some index x, then we know that there are only two possible, right? Either this has some number in it, right, some pre-filled number in it, right, or it has some zero in it. It has zero in it. So if it has a pre-filled number, we can do nothing of it, right? Because we can change it. So leave it for now. But if it has zero, then I know that what rule is here. We would consider just up to one till x, or that we would not consider one the next number here. We would just consider from 1 to x. We would suppose that our array is of size x only. Right? So if we have a 0 over here, then what we would do, we would see the x minus 1 position. Minus 1 of c. Now you can argue that x minus 1 can have a 0 as well, but we would be maintaining an array which shows all the number of ways, all the number of basically arrays that we can have, and x plus 1, x minus 1 as position. We will see how. So suppose x minus 1 position has some value y for now, right? We know that we can have a value y plus 1 or y minus 1, right? We can have only these three values in our x position. And of these three values, we have a condition that y should be greater than 1 and less than y plus 1 should be less than n or less than equal to n. So these are some conditions we would apply, but the basic idea here is to consider the x minus 1 as element. Right? But how do we get the x minus 1 as element? Because there can be cases when we have 0, 0. Right? In that case, we know that our x element is 0, but our x minus 1 as element is also 0. So what we would do is that we would create a table, right? We would create a table of possibilities. So table would be of size n cross n, right? And suppose the table name is dp. So dpij would represent the number of arrays we can make by setting the ith position of the array as. So what we would be doing is that we would be creating this. So DPIJ, we would be creating a table of size n cross n, actually n cross n plus 1 because of the index, you know that because. And what would be DPIJ showing? DPIJ would be the number of, would be showing the number of arrays we can make by setting the ith position of the arrays. So we know that if we put this I, if we put this x minus 1, if our x minus 1 is fixed, we know that there is only one way, right? If our AI is fixed, we know that there is only one array. There is only one. There is only the previous number of arrays that I can make. We cannot change it, right? Because it is already set. But if it is not set, we would see the previous all possibilities and would just add these all. Alright, so let's see the relation we would have with our DP. So DPIJ, there are two cases, right? Let me just say, I think let's just erase all. So DP, so there are two cases. If AI is not, if AI is equal to zero, right? So if AI is equal to zero, I know that if I would be iterating over all the i's. So dp I minus one, j minus one, right? So if I am thinking of putting some j in here, then I know that our number of arrays would be dominated by dp ij and dp ij plus one, right? We would always sorry dp I minus one, right? So what we are doing here is that when we want to know that what are the number of arrays that I can make if I put some j at the ith position. Right? To answer this, we want to know that what are the number of arrays that we can make in the I minus 1th position, and that can contain only j minus 1, j, and j plus 1, because that would be the valid array. Only these would be the valid arrays. Any other array would not be useful. Right? That is a fact. So we know, and there would be some conditions like j should be greater than 1 and I greater than, we would see that in code, but we have constructed a relation over here, right? We have constructed a simple relation over here. And our array is, if our index is already filled, then what we should do? If our index is already filled, we know that dpij, so we would just simply so let us see what we can do. So if j, we would just simply put it as 0, because there are no other way. Right? There is a small condition over here that if my j is equal to a, that means j is equal to a, then I would just set it to 1. Sorry, not 1 actually, dp I minus 1. Right? I minus 1 j plus dp I minus 1 j minus 1 plus dp I minus 1. I hope it is I hope it is clear to you why we are doing this, because see, if our j is equal to ai, then I know that I would be fixing j over here. But what are the number of ways to fix j? What are the number of ways? What are the number of arrays that we would generate if we fix j? So our previous position can have j minus 1 as well, and can have j plus 1 as well. So I have to add all these to get to get the number of arrays that we generate if we put in the j on the axis. Right. That's that is the basically that's the state of our DP, right? And if j is equal to 8, only then we would be doing this. Else, always we would be doing dpij is equal to 0, because we can't change the j position. That no matter what our previous state was, we would always be doing this. So I guess I hope it is clear to you. And if it is not, then I don't know what to do. So just rewind the video, watch it again, or just promotion and pass something. Right. So let's discuss the code. So first we will be just and let's just code it to, like I don't want to use some macros here because that confuses much of the people here. So there's no need to use macros. So for int I is equal to 0 I less than n, so just input our array, and then I would declare a dp 2d array of size n cross n plus 1, and I would be initializing it. Initializing it. Okay, so sorry, I forgot the initialization part. Let's discuss that also here. So what would my initial DC table look like? Should it all be zeros or should it be something else? So we know that we should not consider further positions like 1, 2. We should just initialize our first row, because that won't be valid, right? DPI minus 1 will not be valid in this first row. It would be valid in all other rows, right? So we don't need to think about other rows. We just need to think about the first, right? And also DP00 would always be 0, because uh, because of obvious reasons, right? And the, and all other would be 0 as well. All other stations would be 0 as well. Why so? Because we are at the first element, and we want to put a 0. So is this a valid thing? Is 0 a valid range? No, 0 is not in a valid range. So I should be putting 0 everywhere, right? So in the first row and the first column, this 0, this should always be 0, because I should not put zero in any of the things because zero is not in the valid range. For every other cell, if our AI is equal to zero, our current element, if our first element is equal to zero, then what we can have? Okay, first consider if we have no if our current element is non-zero, then we know that all our arrays, all our elements of this matrix should be zero except the AI element, because there is an array for the AI element, right? Except that everyone should be zero only. Because that is understandable, right? If AI is fake, if our A0 is fake, then I should just mark it as one and and there's no possibility, so I will mark all other as zero. But if it is not fake, if it is zero, if our first element is zero, then what should we do? That should be obvious by now. We would just we would just initialize our DP, our first row with one. Of course, the zeroth column would always be zero, nevertheless. But except for that, everything would be one. Right? Everything means the first row would be totally filled with one. I hope it is clear. Sorry for the fumble. That's I can't control it when it's happening. So DP0 I is equal to A0 is equal to that. I don't remember the name of this. Oh, yeah, ternary operator. If I use ternary operator, if my A0 is equal to 0, then I would be just initializing it with 1, or I would be initializing it with 0. And yeah, our DP A0, if A0 is non-zero, then I would be converting it to 1. Now, if it is 0, then we would say that DP00 becomes 1. But in the next step only, I have done DP00 is equal to 0. Alright, next I would be iterating over all my elements. Of course, DPI0 is equal to 0 because it is not valid. For all the rest of elements, if for j is equal to 1 to n, what I would be doing, I would be just doing this only, this relation only. If I have some value in AI, and if j is equal to AI, right, we saw that here, that we would be doing this step only if j is equal to AI. And what is here? What do we have here? What we have is that our j plus one should not exceed our limit, right? J plus one should not throw a certain timer, so j should be less than n because j plus one should then cross n. And if it is less than n, then we are considering all three possibilities. If it is not, then we are considering only two possibilities, that we can have a number one less than j, or we can have number equal to j. Right? These are the two possibilities only. Right, we have started our loop with 1, so we don't need to think about j minus 1 because that would always be positive. Right, if our j is not equal to ai, then we would just marking it as 0. Else, our if j is less than n, our again the same condition, these two are exactly same, just copy paste it, right? And next, what we'll be doing is if a n minus 1 is not equal to 0, that means that our last element is fixed. If our last segment is fixed, we don't need to worry about the results here because we know that every element, every column or every cell of the row would be zero except the n minus one, because we saw it here, right? If any of the element is present in our array, we just mark all their cells as zero except for the element itself. So we would just output this only, and if it is not equal to zero, if it is equal to zero, then what I would be doing is that I would just sum up all the possibilities, all the number of arrays we can generate, right? And of course, we would be using the percentage mod because it's written over here. We have to output the number percentage mod, right? So I have used percentage mod over here also. So yeah, we would just see out x. This x is actually the sum of all the last element, all the last rows. The x is the sum of the last row, right? So I hope it is clear to you, the code and the approach and how. we should think of it. We should think of it as if I want to cut my TP should always be thought like this, that I have given an array, okay, I would not consider any further things. I would just consider up to this only, and then I would just cut my array again and again and again. But DP dynamic programming is bit harder subject, so there can be anything. Literally, you cannot just master DP in these, I don't know, 15 to 30%. You have to have a stronger grip than that. But okay. So a little spoiler of the next question. Okay, the next question is actually I didn't did it on my own. I first saw some editorial and saw some tutorial video. Then I only was able to think of the intuition because it is not very intuitive. If you get the intuition, I don't know, you may get the intuition, but certainly for me it was not very intuitive. Right? So just don't waste hours. I guess I don't know. You should not waste 1 to 2 hours on this problem because if you don't have any intuition, but if you don't have any intuition to make up in 15 to 20 minutes, you just see the editorial because see my video or any other video which you like, because it is a bit hard to, right? So you should just try for 15 to 20 minutes. That's my advice. Don't just shout at me now. You can, if you want, right? If you have time, you should definitely try it for a longer period of time. Right? So that's it for me now, guys. See you in the next video.